Shift number 5 is writing from sources. So I think that the biggest shift required of us here is to begin to expect that students will take the scholarly work that they do when they are engaging with text and then start to generate their own informational text.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I think what's powerful about shift number 5, and David referenced this a little bit, is that we often have such a heavy reliance on the personal narrative that I think students don't get to do the kind of writing that college and careers expect. And so they get to that, that first college class, and they're asked to write a paper about a historical event, or they're asked to write a paper analyzing an argument in economics, and that's such an unfamiliar writing experience. Now, it's not true of it's obviously not true of every school. There are some schools that are doing an excellent job with this. It's quite variable. But I think what's clear is that as a country, we have overemphasized the personal narrative and underemphasized writing from sources. The other skill that I think is really important embedded in this shift is the ability to write from multiple sources about a single topic, right? And that ability to sort of analyze, synthesize ideas across multiple texts is a very, very powerful idea, and is the kind of thing that I think a lot of people have to do in their job every day, right? And they have to take in different information from different sources and try and reach a conclusion. And that's what we ask of citizens, right? We ask the citizen to, when they go in to make that voting decision, or when they go in to serve on that jury, we ask them to take in these different pieces of evidence and form an opinion and support that opinion with evidence, and then maybe persuade their colleagues or their fellow jurors of that opinion. And that's a very powerful life skill, as well as a powerful academic skill.
But I think the central change in behavior for a teacher, particularly an ELA teacher, right now is to let go of, to some extent, the time spent on the creation of the narrative. I mean, it is something very precious to many English teachers. To many of us have seen students find their voice in the generation of narrative text. Many of us have seen students begin to be able to articulate who they are and where they come from and what they're about and what they want to do in the world through the writing of narrative text. And so you are asking me, and I'm really speaking from personal experience here, like you are asking me to let go of something. I think it's a very natural instinct for an English teacher to want to protect that discovery of voice. And so I'm curious about the ways in which you think this transformation in the way we do school can protect that discovery of voice in students in this more scholarly context.
Yeah, I don't see it as abandoning voice. I guess I see it as a way of ensuring that you are saying something about something important, in a sense, right? And so there's no question that creative writing, personal narrative, that should be in there, and I think that is in there. I mean, it's not that those are abandoned, but it's in a part of the evolution of your voice is to be able to tell about something meaningful. I was thinking about this the other day about a trip to the museum, right? And walking through a museum with having an 8-year-old or 7-year-old reflect on a visit to a museum, right? And one way they could reflect on a visit to the museum is to say, well, I went to the museum and my little sister got a sandwich, and then we went to the top of the museum and there were birds in the sky, and then I got tired and I fell asleep on the way home, the end, right? And then there's another version of writing about the museum that says, I went to the museum and I saw 2 things that were really interesting. I saw an exhibit about penguins, and I learned that penguins, and then some information about penguins. And then I went in another room and I saw an exhibit about how human beings are impacting the environment for penguins, right? And that's a different telling. It's the same thing. It's still there's still voice in it, right? It's still about what I took away from the museum, but they're very different. And I think, this for me is about this work, this shift is about finding ways to push towards that a style of writing where the voice comes in drawing on powerful, useful, meaningful evidence.
Well, because part of what the student can do in that reaction to the penguin exhibit is what the teacher can do is give permission to the student to start to have their own reaction, have their own meaning making about that science, about what they're
Yes.
seeing there, and start to draw their
Yes.
own connections between the humans
Yes.
and the penguins,
Yes.
and
Yes.
start to take it to another place.
Although even that way of talking emphasizes a lot like my take versus yours take.
Yeah.
And other values that really matter are precision and
Yeah.
accuracy and clarity. So we don't want, I think that sometimes in English language arts classrooms in particular, not as much by the way, in science classrooms, we don't as often ask, what's your view of the molecule? You really want to know, what is the molecule and how did it interact? There's nothing wrong in writing with being an investigative reporter and being very clear about the information. But I'll tell you a story about Minnesota, because Minnesota, which is a very different state than our own, had kids submit their essays from high school. A group of college professors got together and they called themselves Ready or Not, College Professors Ready or Not, and they got kids writing. And kids throughout the state submitted writing. Over 95% of it was narrative, and over 95% of it was not college ready.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to really probe our, do we have to do something painful here? Do we
Yes.
have to restrain? Has school become indulgent in a certain sort of way in that something we love and is pleasurable may be distracting us from work that needs doing, where voice is extremely important, but the personalness of one's voice may not always be the most important thing in a work setting, in a college setting, but the accuracy, the precision, the way, the use of evidence, the ability to build a convincing claim,
Right.
these things can be as powerful as, I'm not trying to deny
No,
the
but
force of the personal,
David,
but it may be bigger than we think it is.
But I think in my precision as a student, in my
Yeah.
precision, in my interaction with those facts,
Yes.
I can develop a different sense of pride about my ability to
Exactly.
draw conclusions, make meaning,
Exactly.
assert a point.
To discover things,
Right.
to see better,
It's
to
not
notice.
a book report, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Exactly
It's not, and then the penguins did, and then the penguins said,
That's right.
and then the guy told us.
It might be this is how it fits together.
Yes.
I think that, or rather, you can see
Yes.
that as this, and then another person might not just dismiss it by saying, "Oh, that's what Kate thinks."
Yes.
Another reader might say, "Oh, now I see too."
Yeah.
That Kate saw more of how it fit together. When I read this, I see more. And I
this
don't have to
extends my
be
thinking
Kate
in
to
this
see
way.
things.
Right.
I can see things that Kate saw. Because